My name is Michael Hicks, your host with the most, certified life and relationship coach, founder of Live to Thrive. And before I bring this awesome hair bun dude that you see next to me, which we just realized before we came on live that we got the same look, which I love it. That's probably why he's on the show today. No, but there's a lot more better information. But I just kind of want to talk a little bit about some of our sponsors. Can't sleep, got the aches and pains. You all have to check out this CBD oil. I know you hear it all the time. It's part of literally, if you have trouble sleeping, you got the aches and pains. There's a CBD product that is Amish tested, proven formula. And if you go to superfungummies.com, you can get 50% off at checkout just by simply putting in caps, all cap locks, new heights. Get 50% off. Great thing. Comes in like this little tube. You put like 9 drops underneath your tongue. You truly are sleeping like a baby, like you did back in your 30s, which is truly amazing for those of you who are looking for that. I also want to take a moment in time to talk a little bit about Live to Thrive. Live to Thrive is my coaching agency, which I have branded and built for the last 3 years. Had the founder of Tony Robbins I worked with exclusively as a coach, and I brought together my story, my framework, and now I'm helping individuals and couples like yourself, either struggling with career, mindsets, relationship piece, marriages, want to be a better father, better mother, whatever it might be. I've got some opportunities for you to explore. If you want to learn more about that information, you can do one of two things. You can DM me today the word thrive, and I can get you more information. You can go to all of my socials. They're located obviously in the show notes as well. Or better yet, you can go to www.livetothrive.com. I will be fully transparent. I will not be taking any clients until probably September, maybe October. My caseload is getting full. I'm in the process of hiring some coaches and some virtual assistants to help promote my business as well. So again, I can at least get you started. If you are interested, I will send you out a questionnaire. You fill out the questionnaire. And then what I do is I get it back. I'll see if I can be a good fit for you. And then we'll get on a 1-hour free journey call where I can show you how to narrow the gap and create the change, the long lasting change that you've been looking for. All right. Well, I am super pumped today because today's guest is someone whose mission really aligns with Live to Thrive, almost from a financial perspective. And I want to talk a little bit about it today. Paris Cluff. Cluff, did I say that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. I got it on the first time. I don't always get it on the first time. I got it on the first time. Paris Cluff is a certified financial education instructor with over 25 years of experience, and I'm excited to pick his brain today in helping people not just earn money, however, truly understand it. And that's a big piece. And not only understand it, but master it and use it to build their own version of freedom. And from financial psychology to disaster preparedness, from turning income into wealth to becoming the CFO of your household, which I love. I love how you talk about that. Paris helps people create what he calls their MBA. We just talked about this prior to the show. It's called their massive bank account. It's interesting. We're going to dig into that. Not just through hustle, though, y'all, through clarity, values, and mission. Paris, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited to be here. I love sharing my passion to help people just learn how to manage their money more effectively. So just there's so much of life just gets touched by money, and money touches everything, I think. And when we get our money right, it's just kind of amazing how many other things in our life just kind of start to kind of fall in place. And so I really want to help people. You know, it's interesting that you said that you're more of a life coach, which is awesome. And financial coaches are actually more of a life coach, but we're also with a focus on money. So we're not financial advisors, we're life coaches who understand money. And I used to be a financial advisor, and I was one of those guys that would try to help you to eventually hopefully sell something to you, where I felt better about, you know what, I want to help people really change their habits, behaviors, and beliefs around money, and really teach them how to become wealthy rather than this constant wheel or the treadmill of consumerism. And just, you know, the number one cause of stress in America today, or maybe the world, is money. The number one cause of disease is stress. So therefore, money causes disease. Like a leading cause of divorce is money. A leading cause of just all the value. You know, a lot of men, especially, we put our net worth, we put our personal worth, our self-worth is related to our net worth in a lot of ways. And so if we can really build our net worth, that often not always, but if you can really build your net worth the right way, it will also build your self-worth. So there's a lot of different fun things we can talk about today. And so, as we kind of have this conversation, I'm excited to see where it goes. It's exciting to get to meet you and hear more about your program. And maybe we can, really see if we can establish a great relationship here.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because it's interesting. I'll just say this is, you know, just full transparency, and I'm off the cuff already on my script here, but it's interesting because I'll vet. Let's talk here as coaches, because this is always a big problem. Because a problem for most people is they want help, but then when you tell them the price of a one-on-one session with Michael Hicks, I don't have I'll just be honest, it's not a cheap session by any means. You're going to be forking out some money. Yeah, I got other
Mm-hmm.
packages and other availabilities. I've got cohorts, I got masterminds, I got a membership program. But the biggest thing is, if people want the one-on-one attention, but then they say they don't have the finances to do that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
the first question I always ask, Paris, is, well, when was the last time you talked to your financial coach or your financial advisor? Because, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're truly searching for change, well, change, correct me if I'm wrong, change is going to require, first of all, you got to make sure your bank account is correct. And I want to tie
Mm-hmm.
into all of that with what I just said. I want to dive into, like, I love this piece is the powerful intersection of faith. Faith is a big part of my programming as a life coach. I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of biblical teaching. I'm a born again Christian. Not only faith, but I want
Amen.
to call it.
Amen.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. The three F's, right? It's faith, finance, and then you talked about freedom. And I took notes because right when you talked about this, you said that self-worth is, what did you say? Let me see if I got this correctly, because this might be the title of the podcast. Is self-worth is equal to your net worth? Is that what you said?
A lot of men will say that their self-worth is related to their net worth. So if I make a lot of money, I feel powerful. If I'm poor and destitute and just on the streets, I feel weak and like I can't really move forward. And there's a huge relationship between self-worth and net worth. And how there's it's a nuanced kind of a idea, because there's a lot of people with a lot of money that may not feel very good about their lives, and
Yeah.
there might be a lot of people that are happy as they can be and have no money at all. So it's not 100% it's not 100%, but it's pretty darn. If you went down the street and polled most men, and you said, hey, if you had a million bucks in the bank account, would you be more confident with your life and be more bold with your desires? I
Yeah.
bet you they would probably say yes. And if you ask the same question, hey, if you had a negative $100 million, if you owed $1 million, how was your confidence and your passion and your just dreams and goals? How would you feel about? They'd probably, man, I don't know if I'd be able to handle $1 million negative. So it really does have a lot to do with our self-worth, and especially for men, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting is in my whole parameter of framework of Live to Thrive, we teach that your belief systems either build your future or bankrupt your potential, right? And I really
That's good.
like, yeah, Paris, I like what you do, though. You work with financial psychology, and I want to get into that a little bit. How do financial beliefs form? First of all, how do they? Because I'll be honest with you, and I'll never forget this. I'll never ever forget this. I'm in the process of hiring a coach, building my brand, building my company, and they told me the price at the time. I'm not even going to name the price because it doesn't matter, because I would have paid double. I'll tell everybody
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. There's 12K to work with Tony Robbins and his crew. It's the best
Hmm.
investment I ever made in my life. At that moment in time, I was an educator, didn't know what I was doing, single father, thinking, man, I just have more potential in my life. I look back at it, hindsight now, 3 years ago, I would have paid double because I
Mm.
realized what it's done. But I want to say this because I came from a very humble upbringing. Mom and dad were on welfare. We
Hmm.
got the free cheese. We went to church to get the turkey dinner, like all that
Hmm.
stuff, right? And mom would always say to me, son, money don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
So it's the whole stigma of that mindset piece, which I explore huge, because what you say is what you become. but then the other side to that, Paris, is there are trillions and billions of dollars going through bank systems every single day. So
Mm-hmm.
that whole comment really kind of put me in a direction, so to speak, of like, oh yeah, money doesn't grow on, but the opportunity for money is so out there. So going back to the question, how do financial beliefs form? Do they form at an early age? When I was a kid, like what did that have an
Mm-hmm.
impact on me? Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So a lot of times, your beliefs around money will be from what you modeled or see modeled in your parents and in the parents of your friends. You might see or hear money doesn't grow on trees. You might hear we can't afford that. You might hear we don't talk about money. You might hear like, or you might even see maybe and today it's very, very common to have a single parent and to have to see that single parent struggle. If you look at two children, one that grew up in a dual family that was well-to-do, well off, their whole belief around money is that it's easy, it's possible, we can do this, there's money as abundant. But then you see another child, same age, same potential, even the same country, state, whatever, but grows up in a more single family, sees mom working three jobs, hardly ever there, barely can do, he or she comes home from school, nobody's home, they got to fend for themselves. Like, money is hard and money is rough. It takes a lot of work, and mom's always telling me I can't do this or can't buy this or can't, that those two kids are going to grow up with very different money beliefs.
Yeah.
The kid who lives in the more affluent household is going to have that belief, hey, I can do this. I watched mom and dad do it. They're doing very successful in their business. I can be successful. The other side is like, and here it's never 100%. There are
Right.
kids who will grow up in either of those things, and one might be entitled and think that everything he's lazy and he's entitled and he's a complete you know what, and we don't, and he never goes to do anything on with his life. And then there's kids that learn from their parents, man, I'm gonna hustle and I'm gonna outgrow this. I'm not gonna be the one that has to have three jobs like my mom did. And
Mhm.
so there's always those exceptions, right? But in general, those two kids grow up in those two different separate environments are going to have completely different beliefs around money. And it really does form at a very early age. Another great example of this was a book that was written a while ago by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's
Yeah,
a very
great book.
it's a very common book, and he literally shares with you the beliefs of his actual father and the money beliefs of his surrogate or his best friend's dad. So those are the kind of that's very real how we develop those habits, and then move on to in life. You have maybe you get into a business, or maybe you invest in somebody and they scam you, and now you believe that it's hard, now that you believe everybody's out there to get you, now you believe that everybody's going to just rip you off. And then, or another person maybe has a great experience. I wanted to get into real estate. The guy ended up scamming my wife and I out of several $1,000s. So now I have a bad taste and belief about my potential with real estate investments. I can overcome that because I know that I just picked the wrong guy to mentor me. So I'm going to, you pick a better guy to mentor you and you'll be okay. So those mindsets around money, those beliefs around money started at a very early age. And another real quick thing is, a lot of addictions can be created around, there's all kinds of addictions. There's alcohol, there's drugs, but there's also spending addictions. People want to go spend money to get out of their, to feel like I get sad, I get depressed, I get anxiety, and boy, there's a dopamine hit every time I click, submit on Amazon, or I go to the store and swipe the card. I'm like, woohoo, look at this cool new thing that I got. And then, 30 minutes, 3 days, whatever, I'm like, man, why did I buy that? And we're back in the cycle. So those money beliefs also come into effect in our experiences and how we have with our friends, with our associates, with other business people in the marketplace. The more we have negative experiences, the more negative money beliefs we'll have. The more positive experiences, the more positive money beliefs we'll have.
Yeah, it's really well said. I got a couple things off of that. I got you're either brought up through empowerment or sabotage, really, when it comes
Hmm.
down to. And it took me,
That's good.
yeah, Paris. It took me out of like literally, again, mom had a high school diploma. I had a dad that was never around, right? She attempted to get child support from him. That didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. And then um, mom remarried. Well, I think she was married 4 times. I don't know. She was married, and then to my dad, who only had an eighth grade education. And I just remember distinctively. I was always well taken. I was taken care of all the time, but it put a
Mm-hmm.
stigma. It put it like it like had a ceiling. And I always just felt like I was just worth more, and there was more, 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 more. So anybody that is listening, whether you need a financial coach, a life coach, a uh, fill in the blank coach, coaches help coaches, and coaches need coaches to become the best self. You talk to anybody, like I always use the analogy of take your favorite sports all-star, whoever it is. Yeah, they're getting paid millions of dollars, but they've got a nutritionist, they've got a personal trainer, they've got a mentor, they got all the gamuts because the best need the best to be the best. You know what I mean?
And you find out they don't have a coach, time to get a new coach.
Well, brother, well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually, and I appreciate you actually saying that. So I'm just going to share. I'm on a journey of looking for someone else because I feel like I'm at a point now that I need more. I need more. I'm like, give
Mm-hmm.
me, give me, give me, give me. I need more. I need more. I need more. I appreciate you saying that because that is 100% sure. Like I have a therapist, I have a personal trainer, I have a life coach, but now I need a business coach because I need to get to the next level. Hey, I
Awesome.
want to pivot here. So I want to talk a little bit about men and women because I think men and women carry financial trauma in different ways. Can you kind of elaborate on that? You know what I mean? Like you talked about it earlier on the podcast. Men. I struggle with what you said, and I'll tell you why. Men, like I'll give you an example on why I struggle with the whole point of money. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if I said to you right now, Paris, I'll give you $1 million today. No, don't overthink it. If I gave you $1 million today, Paris, would you take it? Yes or no?
Yes.
100%. We all would say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you put this at the end, ready? Paris, I'm going to give you $1 million today. But the caveat is if you take the $1 million, you cannot wake up tomorrow. Would you take it?
Yeah. No thanks.
But that's my
Nope.
whole point is going back to what you had said originally on the podcast. Yeah, men are still empty. Even if they have the car, the wife, whatever it might be, but then they have this distended belly. They're just exhausted with life. Like
Mm-hmm.
like there's still like there's no price tag that you can put on your health versus anything. But let me get back on track on what I want to talk about here. So financial trauma, does it carry different with men? You kind of talked about it earlier. What about with women?
Yeah, I've never been a woman, so I'm not 100% sure how it works for them. But you
Yeah,
know,
no, that's fair.
the idea is that women tend to look for, and this is a generalization, of course. There's always some exception to every rule, but women tend to look for peace in through nurturing. They want to have a protector. So as a man, the traditional roles, I know that, there's a lot of talk about genders and different things, but traditionally, a man's role is to preside, provide, and protect. And those are the three P's. I call them the three P's of fatherhood and husbandry or manhood. And a woman is the complement of those things. She wants to nurture and she wants to build and she wants to build a home and to have a nurturing effect. And so she feels the most confident. I believe that a woman feels the most confident when she's completely protected and she can actually grow within that protection. And so that's how when, for example, I'm actually going to be speaking in a couple next month. Actually, I'm going to be speaking to a group of women, and actually, can you still hear me? Did I cut out?
Yeah, you're good now. We'll
Okay, I
edit
had a,
this.
I had
Hold
a,
on one second, Paris. We'll edit this. Let me just let it get caught up here. Take two, edit, take two. Those of you that are catching on the live, you get all the mistakes. All right, go ahead, Paris.
so women like to have this protective nature, and they need to be protected. And as long as they're protected, they can build a home. The old adage: men provide a house, women build a home. Men provide food, women build a meal. And so I think that women. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be next month. I'm speaking to a women's group. They are a group of women that have had some trauma with divorce, and they're trying to find out how to find themselves after divorce because they had a provider for so long and they no longer have that provider because the divorce. And so their trauma is, oh my goodness, what can I do now to provide and to protect my child if they're a single mom now or whatever their situation is. They no longer have that. So women do hold a different you can really they're I feel like it's a different side of the same coin that men have because they women just really I feel like they need to have somebody that's going to preside, protect them, and provide for them, and then they can really flourish. And when they don't have that, they have to step into that role, and it's not a natural role
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
feminine for
Yeah.
that feminine divine for the divine feminine. It's not a natural thing for them to be in that role.
Right. It's more masculine, and a lot of women. I have a few clients that are very successful. Um, and one of my clients, not to give too much information, but she's like, I just want to have a man. She's like, that can allow me to be a woman because
Hmm.
she's the big CEO. She's running corporate buildings. She's like financial real estate, like major corporations. And she's like, I haven't been able to find that. I want to go back to what
There's
you
a
had
lot of
talked.
insecurity. There's a lot of insecurity that men might have because of a woman like that who's risen so well. And I think that, there's it takes a lot of security in a man's position in his mindset to be able to have a wife and a partner that's going to do that. And that's a really good point. Those women have a harder time because of that very thing.
Yeah, it's very hard, very, very hard. But it's that's why they bring out a coach them explore that. But I want to add one more piece that I really truly think men need. You mentioned some really good worldly secular things. I also think men need to learn how to be the minister of their household
Mm.
because they need to be leading in faith too. Because I talked about that earlier on the podcast. I think that's one of the other. We talk about faith, financial, and like obviously then freedom, right? But I think if they're the minister of their house, they're leading through faith, biblical practices. They're going to church, not just to be Christian-esque on Sunday. Oh, yeah, I'm Christian. I went to church. No, that's not what God wanted us to intend. That's not how it works. Like you still need
Hmm.
to be in part of it every single day. So that was another piece that I would add. Well said. And I gotta ask you that are you going to be recording that segment because I'll be very transparent with you. We may need to talk off here because I don't know that area in my practice to lead them to. Do
Hmm.
you know what I
Hmm.
mean? The women that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. I think it'll be, I'm going to record it because I want to have it for my records and probably put it out. But the lady who's hosting me, I'll talk to her about it and see what her plans are for that. But
Yeah.
absolutely, and I agree with you 100% about the faith. When I talk about presiding, that means presiding to me as a man means that you just make sure that everything gets done that's supposed to get done. Protecting is not just like physical protection. It's not just with the, Second Amendment. It's protecting spiritual warfare. It's protecting financial warfare. It's protecting against emotional warfare. It's protecting against everything. If there's anything that there's an enemy or a contrary or an opposer in your life that's opposed your goal, you got to stand between them and your kids, stand between them and your wife as a man. That's my belief. And then provide. You don't provide just financially. You got to provide the word to your family. You got to provide the emotional support to your family. You got to provide finances. You got to provide the physical support. Like I I'm not, I'm not in the best shape of my life, but I'm in the pretty darn good shape for a 50-year-old guy. I lift every day and I go to the gym and so I eat right. I try to a lot of the stuff you were talking about, nutrition and the CBD stuff. I take a lot of that stuff. So I want to be the whole package, not just one thing. And that's where I think a lot of guys get so caught up. They get so one-sided that they lose some of the other important things that they need. And there's another really good, a lot of people, a lot of men, especially right now, they've done so well in the world, and they have maybe gotten the praises of man, but then they lose their family, they
Uh,
lose their wife in the process, And to me, that's there's a leader that I follow. One of the leaders in my church says there's no success can compensate for failure in the home,
Oh, I
and
preach. Yeah,
I believe that.
I and I'm gonna even go even deeper, and I'm a product of this, and this is why I teach couples now. Is relationships fail is because men don't know how to lead.
Mm, that's a
That
huge
was
one.
yeah that was me. I didn't know what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing. I thought I did. I was like the lukewarm Christian. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
get it. I didn't understand it. So yeah, I think that's so well said. And I think of and the thing is too is so much from just taking it from a masculine perspective, because I think we can really hone in on this piece is like these tomorrow and Friday I'm going through this leadership summit um, piece that's run through my church, and I'm beyond excited. Tim Saban's going to be there. Craig Greshel, one of my favorite pastors from Life Church, is going to be there. Like so many awesome continents here right now. But I just want to say this: don't be the man that works your 9 to 5 and then comes home, turns on the boob tube, gets out a beer, and puts your feet up and says, "Okay, I did my job today." No, you did not. Investment,
Mm-hmm.
not only financially, you need to do that with money, right? Which we'll talk a little bit more here, but you also need to, Paris. Like your relationship with your kids is an investment. Your relationship with your spouse is an investment. Are you dating
Mm-hmm.
your spouse twice a month? Are you spending at least 90 minutes a week connecting? Or you two ships passing in the middle of the night?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, 100%. I love coaching couples because I can say, okay, now I can talk to the man about his goals financially, his habits financially, and then I can talk to the wife, the woman about her goals and her habits financially, and then I can say, look at you both. Look at her strengths and his strengths and your weaknesses and her weaknesses, and let's stop competing and let's start complementing. Where you have a strength and she has a weakness, don't beat her up. Where he has a strength and you don't beat him up.
Yeah.
Work to like that's hey, that's a strength you have. Teach me. Help me
Yeah.
have that. Help me grow in strength. And
And
that's something that my wife and I do is we have constant communication about okay, where can I be better? Where can you be better? And then we know because we're coming at it from a position of love that we're not going to be railing on each other and arguing with each other. I can't remember the last time I argued with my wife, like in a heated argument. Like we
yeah.
argument, the actual definition of argument is where you discuss things, but I've never had we reason together more than anything, which is what God says to do. Come reason with me.
Yeah,
Anyways,
and it's beautiful that you said that, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing some of that. And real quick, for any of you that are, I know we had a lot of you coming through on the live here. If you got any questions for Paris, please shout it out in the comments. We'll do our very best. It's just a lot of hellos, so hello everybody. But I want to say this is I always say when I deal with the relationship piece, and we're gonna get to the money. I know you guys that are tuning in. You're like, we got to talk about money. We're gonna talk about that because I got a good question that I want to ask Paris here, but I just want to say this because I think this is a good tie-in to everything. Is always see how you can get your significant other to win. It's a
mm,
win-win relationship. The error, the problem, if we're going to have a problem, is whatever you have a disagreement with. It's not the mom or the male. It's not the female. It's not. It's not. It's how can I get them to win? The question should be, what can I do to get them to win? That's what should ultimately, because we tend to want to, like you said, is like go on a. Oh, there we go. I apologize, Paris. You there? I don't know where I
yeah,
lost it. But I'll just segment. Take two. Edit it. So what I was saying is, we need to really concentrate in a relationship on the problem, and not really go into the issue with the other person, because you're married. You
Are you there, Michael?
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I apologize. My market team has kept calling me, and that's why.
Yep. I got a call earlier, and that's why I was buggy.
All right. Okay. 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 I don't know where I left off, but I'll edit all of that. And I don't want to repeat it. If I did it come through at all? Any of the pieces, Paris?
It was you were about to make. I think you were about to make the final point, and
Okay.
that's right when it
Yes.
cut off.
Yes. Okay. So final point is in a relationship, your partner should never be the problem. Your problem is the issue, and that's the thing that you need to attack together. That's all I'm going to
I
say because
agree.
I feel like
I I have a
yeah. Go ahead.
saying, Michael. I have a saying for that. It's not who is right; it's what is right. And so if you fight because I'm right, no, you're going to have an argument, and you're going to be pushing against each other. When you push, you're going to dig in your heels, and it's going to get worse. But when you pull, let's talk about what is right. It's not me, it's not you. What? Let's kind of third party it out there, like what is right. Now you can both approach it from the same angle, from the same side. It's you and me against the world. It's you and me against the whatever we're facing. It's you and me against our kids. It's you and me against this financial problem. It's you and me against this health problem. It's you and me against this car accident. Whatever it is, it's you and me
Wow.
against that. And that's how my wife and I just really develop our relationship. Is that she and I are partners, and whatever is happening to us, it's happening to us. It's not happening to her. It's not happening to me.
Mm,
Whatever, if it might be something that's happening to her. Like my wife just hit menopause, and there's some really significant health concerns that she's had because of it. And she feels guilty because a bunch of medical bills have come in from that. I'm like, babe, it's not your fault. Every woman goes through this. It's not your fault. Like, did you choose? You didn't choose that. Like that was you know what I
right.
mean? You're a woman. It just naturally happens. So I just said, babe, it's you and me against the bills. It's you and me against the medical, establishment. It's you and me. And whatever happens, it's you and me. And so that's something that I really agree. I like what you said earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, Paris, that's beautiful, and I appreciate your vulnerability of sharing that. And that's the one thing too is I think men tend to get their egos in their way, and that really destroys relationships. And I ain't gonna lie because that was me.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
had the ego, and I wasn't vulnerable. I always like to ask. I always tell my clients, and we're gonna move on to this next question here because it's just been flowing organically. Besides getting my marketing team to call me two times,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
exactly.
is I always like to say is how could I have handled that better? What could I have done better to help you through this process? Because I think that's
That's
a
good.
real yeah, that's a like it's I use it I call it a self edit auditing. And when you can start to edit audit yourself, you're gonna find that your relationship is just gonna skyrocket. All right.
100%.
What's one belief that most people should challenge about money, Paris? What's one belief that most people should challenge about money?
Um, I'm going to give you two, if that's okay.
Perfect.
One of the biggest beliefs that I've had over the years as I've met with people is I talk to them about money. I'm not good at math. Well, money has more to do with habits, behaviors than it does with math. And so another huge thing is that money is hard, or money is difficult, or money is in order to get money, you have to do, derelict things, and that's not true. Money. There's an old saying. I think Harold Ford, Gerald. Anyways,
Gerald, yep, Gerald
Fo-
Ford, yeah.
no, it was not the president. It was the guy who did the car company.
Okay, okay.
I can't remember his first name, but I think it starts with an H. Anyways, Ford, the guy Ford who built the car company, he said money doesn't in some way he said money doesn't reveal make you, it reveals you. And I believe that's true. I added to that, money doesn't make you, it reveals you, and then it magnifies you. So if you're a jerk and you have a ton of money, you're going to magnify jerkhood on the world. If you're a benevolent, kind person and you have a ton of money, you're going to magnify that in the world. I'm like, you know what? We need to have a bunch of Christian, conservative patriots get moneyed up so that we can promote Christian values and conservative values again in the world. And I don't know everybody who's listening to this, but that's my belief.
Yeah.
I believe that the more money that you have, the more of a voice you have, and the more you can actually promote good into the world. And money is a tool. It's a total tool. In fact, you just mentioned a couple big names in the Christian community. I was just on a call last night with Jim Baker. I don't know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jim Baker, but he talks about wealth, how heaven can invade your finances. That's his book. And he talks about wealth and business and God and how it all relates. And he just had a fantastic message. And so, anyways, we'll talk. I'll talk more about that with you maybe offline, because there's some resources that I have that I think you might be interested in. But
Okay.
there's just a lot of, I think one of the biggest things that people believe is that the more that money is hard,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be.
Well, we talked about this earlier. I just pulled up a stat. 73% of Americans say finances are the number one sources of stresses in their life. This was by a poll in 2024, which is just recently. Another one said, this is a big one, and I agree with this, is over 60% of adults say where they were never taught financial literacy in school. If you were to go back, do you agree with that statement? Do you think we need to do better? And if we would, what would we do better in? And how would we do it?
It's really weird to me because when as you shared my CV at the beginning, I've been in this for 25 years. And when I got into this business, I saw a statistic that 5 out of 100 people who make it to 65. So, and 34 of them died. Like there's the statistics kind of, the numbers are pretty interesting. How out of 100 people that were born, to get to 65, most of them have passed away, but only 5 of them have any degree of financial independence or financial freedom. And I thought, we live in America. We
Yeah.
live in the home of the free and the land of the brave, and yet we're broke and slaves. You know what I mean? So it's like, how did that? And then today, I was on a call 2 weeks ago, I think. No, maybe it was last week, with a guy who presented almost the exact same statistics. And I'm like, 25 years later, we haven't moved the needle, or if
Yeah.
we have, it's not been enough. And
Do you do you
I
think
don't,
it's yeah? Here's I didn't mean to interrupt you, Paris, but this is what I think of. You think we're just too comfortable?
I feel like if I can get into a little conspiracy,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I feel like all the propaganda that we get about, buy now, pay later, all the propaganda that we get about, hey, if you just buy this, go on this vacation, you deserve it. You worked hard, you deserve it. I think credit card companies, and there's others too, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna put credit card companies in the hot seat right now. I think credit card companies spend billions probably of dollars to get us into this consumer rat race mentality, and we see all the wonderful dopamine of it, and we just, oh, if for $200 a month I can get this new car, like, or whatever. It's like you don't need it. Everything's on payments now, and so we feel like, oh, it's just $50 a month, and you're already, before you know it, you got $10, $50 a month is going out, and you don't even need it, and now you're strapped. You're wondering, what the heck did I do? And so I feel like, I feel like there needs to be a defense against these situations. For the Harry Potter fans out there, I think there should be a defense against the dark arts, a defense against the financial dark
Yeah.
arts,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
to speak, to get people to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm being sold a bill of goods. This is a fake lifestyle. And then we get all these gurus online. They're like, oh, make $300,000 a month, doing this, drop shipping, or do this Amazon,
Yeah.
whatever this.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, 300,000 a month. Show me and then they show you, hey, I made 300,000. But what they don't show you is they spent 299,000 to do it,
100%. That's so
or
accurate that you said
or
that.
or they spent 305 to do it.
Yeah,
You
no,
know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Man, you said a lot, and I agree with that too. And everything, and I almost think like in today's day and age, like everything is subscription or payment, because like, man, how many, like, you could easily, like, let's just even take media. For you can get Netflix, you can have a YouTube, I mean, I pay for a premium on my verified, the verified symbol. That's like $15 a month, but it's
Mm-hmm.
verified. I'm verified, but it's like, you can, then you got music, and then you got Amazon this and that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a lot. And so one of my cornerstones, Paris, for Live to Thrive is about, like talked about it earlier, is relationship coaching, and there's no denying. I think money's impact on marriage, right? I think you know where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going on this. So, in your experience, Paris, how do finances impact family dynamics and marital health?
Wow, do we got another 2 hours here for that one? Like,
It's a
shoot.
big one, I know.
So one of the things that I'll tie in actually a comment that I wanted to make on that last question into this one, and I feel like it boils down to, let's say that there was a couple in front of me, and I'm going to do kind of your same example. There's a couple in front of me, and I say I'm going to give you $1 million. Would you argue about just that? Would the couple start to argue about, well, we don't need $1 million. Yes, we do. We need a million. Like, would they are? No, they would both be like, yeah, give it to me, right?
Yeah,
So it's not about the receipt of money. It's about the next step, which is the expenses. It's the spending it. Marriages argue about how money is spent, not how it's earned. Now, of course, there's might be some arguments about, like I have a really, really good friend who struggled in business. He struggled in really having a career. So his marriage, they fight a little bit about, hey, go make more money, bro. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah.
there are some fights about making money, but the biggest fights come from spending. And I going to tie that into the last comment where so God is a creator, not a consumer. And so if we want to walk with God with our finances, we need to be able to realize money is a tool to help us create. And what can we create with money? We can create a ton of things. We can create a beautiful family. We can create a business. We can create wealth. We can create generational wealth. Matter of fact, there's a scripture that says, blessed is he who leaves money to his children's children. You know what I mean? I don't remember the verses. Sorry, I don't always remember which chapters and which verses, but I know that's a message in there. So to me, if I want to learn how I've learned over the last 50, I have not had I've not had credit card debt in 15 years, almost 15. Yeah, it's 16 actually. I have mortgage. I have my wife has a student loan because she went back to work after a huge hardship we had, and she was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, and then we lost everything, and she had to go back to work to help, and that was a huge learning experience for us. But what I learned my lifetime is that if we can learn to stop spending tomorrow's money today
Mm.
and start spending yesterday's money today, we're going to switch the whole thing. The whole thing will turn on its ear. Like, so if today you're going to spend tomorrow's money in hopes that you'll have that job still, in hopes that that business will still, like you might be making good money right now and you believe that it's always going to be coming in. Well, I got news for you. It's not going to always come in. So be ready for that. And how do you be ready for that? You prepare. You only spend from yesterday's money. Like I have reserves, I have a sinking funds, I have savings, I have emergency funds. Like my wife told me the other day, she says, sometimes this whole thing where we save up for money, we save up for things before we buy them is really hard. I'm like, yeah, it is. But she's like, but honestly, I would rather do it this way than have credit card debt and have other consumption debt. And I feel like that's one of the biggest arguments is when you have a couple that their spending habits are out of alignment with each other. That's where they're going to have the biggest arguments. If you can get control of your spending, control of your expenses, discipline the outflow, then the cash coming in will help fill in buckets and you can create a plan together. I think that when you have communication together about what your future is and you come together on it and say, what do you want to accomplish? Well, okay, great. Let's write it down. What do I want to accomplish? Like my wife and I say, babe, what do you want for in the next 5 to 10 years? She writes that down. And then I write down what I want in the next 5 to 10 years. And if they're different, we try to figure out how to find things that are common ground that we can work through together to build together. Because when you have common goals and you have a plan that you can work together to accomplish those common goals, then the individual goals that you have will come from that, will come out of that. But you have to have number one, you have to control your spending and stop arguing about where money's going. Just get it under control. Hey, if you're having a problem right now with your spending, if you're in debt and you're up to your eyeballs and you make a bunch of money and you have nothing to show for it, just wake up to the reality that here's another saying: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And so if you like what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. But if what you're receiving in life is not congruent with who you believe, or who, through the Holy Spirit, whatever, if what you're getting in life right now is not what you want, it's time to change. It's time to make a change. And what if that's, if that's hiring Michael to come in and be your coach, or it's hiring somebody like me, or if it's just getting together with your spouse and saying, look, I've been an idiot with our money. I want to come to you and I want to fix our money together. And hope, and in my experience, whenever I tell my wife I'm an idiot and I need to make some changes, she receives it with humility, and she says, you know what, there's probably some things I need to fix too. And
Wow.
together we can say, okay, I'm humble, I need to fix it. You're humble, we need to fix it. And that humility together gets us going in the right direction. If you don't have that in your relationship, cultivate it, develop it, work toward it. It's possible. If it gets to the point where that just can't be developed for some reason, then, at that point, make a change. But I teasingly tell people, I said, look, one of the side effects of hiring me as a coach, as a couple, is you're going to have to find something different to fight about.
I like that. Hey, I got so much out of what you said there, man. And first of all, thank you. So I want to just make it simpler. So someone that makes X amount of money should live about, so let's just pick a number. All right. Let's just say $100,000 a year. All right. Let's just pick a number. They live
Mhm.
$100,000 a year, then they got a mortgage payment, right? Um, they shouldn't live like $100,000 a year. They
Mm-mm.
should live at how much a year? And then give me the
Yeah.
breakdown, give the audience the breakdown of like, okay, you should put this amount of weight in an emergency fund. You should put this amount of money. Do you follow where I'm going? Because
Yeah.
I have a lot, because I came from the education system.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of teachers that just have 10, they have a contract for 10 months. And then for the summer months, they don't get paid.
Yeah.
So that adds another entity into the savings plan as well.
Hmm. Exactly.
Can you maybe break that down for us, like simplify it with numbers if you can?
Sure. There's a lot of different budgeting apps out there, strategies that'll tell you. There's the 50, 30, 20. There's all the different percentages you can do. And just to kind of go with a 50, 30, 20, 50% of your money should be towards fixed costs, 30% towards variable costs, and then 20% towards savings, and investing. Savings is different than investing. So I have a 7-step process. The first step is mindset. Just start to work on your habits, your behaviors, your beliefs around money. Start to figure out, do you even believe that you can be financially free and financially set? And I was listening to actually Gary V, who's a famous guy. Well, maybe most of your listeners should know who he is.
Yep.
But Gary V said that I was financially free when I made $46,000 a year because I lived on less than I made. Now there's a lot that can go into defining financial freedom, but that's a pretty cool, if you learn to live within your means, you can actually feel more confident even if your income is low, because you're in a position where you have savings. You can make decisions from not from urgency, but you can make decisions from wisdom, because you have everything that you need. Like, a savings account gives you voice, it gives you confidence, it gives you value, it gives you the ability to tell your boss who just told you to do something unethical, sorry, I don't want to work here anymore, and you go change jobs because you have savings. You have the ability to say, you know what, if something happened to me or my wife, we have insurance, we have the protections in place, we have all of the stuff in place. So I'm just saying that if you're going to have $100,000 a year, you're going to want to have at least 50,000 towards your fixed expenses, your car, your mortgage, your home, your rental, you know, life. We all have to have cell phones nowadays, and all those. There's just regular costs that we have to have, and then 30% is variable. Like, that's where you go and how much do you eat out, or how much do you go to the restaurant, or how much entertainment do you have every month, and then 20% should be savings. 10% towards your future goals, and 10% towards maybe your current goals. 3 to 6 months, if you have a really good job that's stable, and then you can go 3 months. The rule of thumb is, for every $10,000 you make, that's how long it will take you to find another job earning that amount of money. So if you have $100,000 job, it will likely, on average, take you 10 months to find another job paying $100,000. Well, what can you survive for 10 months without an income? If you
Wow.
can, you're another thing that I got from Robert Kiyosaki years ago is wealth isn't measured in money, it's measured in time. How much time freedom do you have? And I love that. I'm working on ways to buy back my time.
Agreed.
And I teach my clients to buy back their time, find ways to buy back their time. So if you're making 100 grand a year and you're spending 100 grand a year, you're in the rat race. Like earlier you brought us to the statistics. I think another statistic that's out there is 60 to 70% of six-figure earners still feel like they live paycheck to paycheck. And that's because their spending is out of whack. If you learn to discipline your spending, get it down to where you should, like I tell people, look, the house you're in, it's too much house. The car you're driving, it's too much car. You're in the situation you're in because your appetite is bigger than your than your income.
Yeah.
And so learn to discipline that. It's hard. It's hard to do that. But I would say, uh, there's a lot of different individual plans. Like if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, Paris, I heard you talk about that 50-30-20 deal. Here's my particular situation. I may recommend something else for an individual,
So it
but
varies.
just in general, that's a really good kind of 50-30-20
Okay. That's good.
percentages.
No, I appreciate you breaking that down. So you have couples that have, I don't know if you get this objection all the time when we get clients to get on calls. I call them journey calls. I don't know what you call them, but so they come on, they're like interested in my product, but then I get to the objection. Oh, I got to talk to my husband
Hmm.
or I got to talk to my wife, right? So take that now and add it to this question. What conversations do couples need to do to have before they make a big transition into a purchase?
Well, I feel like it's just like a business. And I talked about you earlier. You mentioned that I believe in we all need to be the CFO of our home.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
If I was, here's my question to anybody. If I was to hire you as the CFO of my personal finances, would I go broke or would I be rich? And if you manage your money the way you'd manage mine, that might be an indicator, of whether or
Yes,
not I'm going to hire
yes,
you.
yes.
Um, so I would say that, any business, there's like petty cash, right? So it's like, hey, just make the choice. I trust you, go for it. But then there's certain purchases where you need to talk to the board of directors. You know what I mean? You need to have a conversation with the board of directors. And I agree with that 100%. So
Okay.
like my wife and I have a limit. If it's over a certain dollar amount, let's talk about it. If it's under a certain dollar amount, just go for it. I trust you. You know what I mean? We have
Okay.
things like that in place. But I suggest that you treat your finances like you would be if you're running like a business, because you really are. Your home and your house is it can be it treat it like a business, financially speaking, anyways. And I think that you'll have a lot that mindset. I think will help you be more intentional with your money, and you'll probably do a lot better with it. And for example, my wife came to me the other day and she's like, "Hey, Paris, I want to do something in the house. There's something that I want to buy some window coverings or something or another."
Yeah.
And I said, we actually have a fund. One of our things is a fund for home repairs and home upgrades.
Hmm.
And so I showed her, I said, hey, this is how much money is in that fund. This is the dollar amount. It has a comma in it, thankfully. And I said, that's good for the rest of the year. So just stay within that. And I
Yeah.
don't like if she spends all of it in one fell swoop, it's there. That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there
If
for. Yeah.
she spreads it out over a couple months and buys a bunch of things over the next rest of the year, that's what it's there for. Like I don't that when I set aside sinking funds, or what I call sinking funds, and it's money that's set aside for a specific purpose. That's it's guilt free if you as long as you spend it for that purpose.
Yeah, I love that. One thing, Paris, I really admire is your focus on preparedness as I was getting prepared for this podcast today and being ready for everything from a job loss to a natural disaster. That's truly a mindset, not just like a money plan. And you and I are really in alignment with that. And it brings me to this question is how does financial preparedness tie into emotional and spiritual peace for people?
So I've been a leader in my church in certain congregations I've been in throughout the years, and I was a leader over the men's group for a while. And I would go into homes and I would talk to them about their walk with God. And a lot of times they were just so overwhelmed with their 9 to 5, their money issues, the debt collectors, their bills, their arguments with their wife, whatever. And I'm like, if I could, what if I could just get you to get, it really is like, it really is about the money. Get over the money. Just get over it. Like, do what you got to do to get the money right. Because after that, now I still worry about money. Don't get me wrong. Like I have a nice income. I have a bunch of money in savings. Like I have money, right? But I still worry. I still get worried. Like any day now, some bill, a medical issue could bankrupt. You know what I mean? Like none of us are completely free from it. But one of the things that I really know is that when a stressor hits me, I like to call it the enemy. You know, the enemy attacks. When the enemy
Yeah,
attacks,
fear. Yeah.
that fear comes in hard. And if I'm like, you know what, I got a plan for this. Number
Mm.
one, I got the Lord, I got Jesus to help me and bring me and guide me and comfort me and say, hey, we got this. I'm with you. We'll walk together through this. But I did my part too. Like there's that old saying that pray like it's all up to God, but then work like it's all up to you. And I believe we got to do our part. Like God will take the wheel, but He's not going to drive for it. We got to still. It's like God's
Yeah.
more like power. God's
Yeah.
more like power steering
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for you. He
For
just makes it a
sure.
little easier.
For
And
sure.
so I'm just like, you know what? When you get your money right and you can take a deep breath, you can actually spend time studying the scriptures. Like I have every night, my family, we get together before we go to bed and we pray. Sometimes, and if we have a little bit of time, we'll read the scriptures, a couple verses, chapter maybe, and then we'll pray together. We always pray together every night before we go to bed
Beautiful
as a
thing.
family.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get to read the scriptures together. But I spent time. I got my money right a while ago, and I actually was working with another guy who was a pretty well-known pastor in our church, and he's just very like cerebral, like just really knows the scriptures well. And he's an older guy. He's retired now, so he has time for it. He's like, Paris. I had conversations with him. He's like, Paris, you're how I was 30 or something, but I'm 50 now, but I was like in my early 40s. He's like, Paris, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, because I have time. I can take time to read and study and get, my walk with God is it's so because and now of course there's always something that's going to come up with money. There's never that we live in a fallen world where money is required. So let's
Yeah.
just
I get it. Yeah.
let's just get over it. But once you get to the point where you're like, hey, you know what? My money is mostly good. Now I can take time to really work on my relationship. I can take my wife out on a date. I love how you said that, at least twice a month.
Yeah.
We don't worry. We used to worry about. I lived on. I had EBT. I had an EBT card. Back when I was food stamps. I know what it's like to have that. We have to put it back. Today we go out to eat. I never look at whatever it is. In fact, if somebody has to struggle at the grocery store, I usually slip them a couple bucks and help out. Like I'm in a position now where I can do things like that and I can give and I can and it's because I I think there's another really good quote. It's not a scripture from the Gospels, but it's a Stoic quote. And I think it was Seneca or somebody like that said it says, wealth is not about having a lot of stuff. It's about wanting less.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, that just brings the spiritual nature into it. Like
100%. Yeah. And
be,
I've realized.
realizing that you have enough if you have enough to take care of all your needs and then be able to give and help others.
Ah,
That's enough. That's wealth.
yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because man, when I was younger, I mean, I'm a shoe connoisseur. I love my Nikes. I love my Jordans. Right, like that's my thing, and I got a
Uh-huh.
lot. I do have a lot, but as I reflect and I look back, though, like I used to have the right to have the clothes, all of this, and that's not even a priority to me anymore. It's so funny
Hmm.
as we age and we begin to evolve on how those things are. Hey, we're getting to the top of the hour here, and I didn't even get through my entire script, and this has been an amazing podcast episode today with you, Paris. But I'm looking at some good questions here. So, have you ever walked someone through financially healing after a crisis?
Um, I've had my own financial healings after a crisis that I've walked through. Um,
You want to talk about that
so
or no?
sure. So I was in 2008 during the financial crisis that came. There was a huge hit to the market. I had a lot of my clients were real estate investors, and so they buy houses and flip them, and then they invest the cash with me, and then they hold
Yeah.
the cash with me in the meantime. and I'd invest it for them. But then it got to the point in late 2008 where that whole market just stopped and nobody was buying houses. The flipping stopped. And so they're like, Paris, I need all my money to be able to just maintain my properties or I'm going to lose them because they didn't want to go into foreclosure themselves. And I lost everything. I have literally can write a country music song about I lost my house, I lost my cars. I remember the night the repo guy came. I remember moving out, driving away when the foreclosure hit. I lost everything. And there was a period of time, and I really know there's a great book that's out there called The Ultimate Gift, and they made it a movie. It's kind of a B movie, but it's still a really good message. It's called The Ultimate Gift, and it talks about in there. One of the guys says, "You've never really lived until you've lost everything." And I'm like, boy, I'm living right now. During that period of my life, and I learned a ton of lessons from that. And you know, that period of time, I could have gone two ways. I could have gone down a really dark hole. I was in a dark place anyways, but I could have gone even darker and ended it. And several of my colleagues I heard about later ended up choosing that, and I'm very sad for them and their families. And there was other of my colleagues that or I could just rise above it, or I could quit and go get a job, or I could rise above it and rebuild. And I just remember sitting on the couch one day and this is a little bit vulnerable, if that's okay. But I was sitting on the couch one day, and I'd just gotten off the phone with a debt collector, and he just ripped me up and down, right and left. We're gonna take you to the cleaners, the whole nonsense. And I just remember sitting there and saying, God, I've never been here before. I've always been responsible. I've always been blessed. I've always had enough and to spare. And how did I get here? How did this happen? Because all my clients just like one by one just left, and I had no more money under management. Like it was just nobody was buying investments because nobody could afford it. And I ended up just having an overwhelming just feeling of obviously I had a family, I had a wife, like I was responsible. I've always been responsible. And I just felt the Holy Spirit just on me and he said, we're going to get through this together, you and me together. We're going to make it work. Get up and fight, and I will help you. And um, I rebuilt. And I promised God at that point. I said, I'm going to do this differently. Before I was, I'm going to be rich because I'm going to give, and God's going to want me to give, so He's going to make me rich so I can give more. You know what I mean? Like I was sort of those.
Yeah.
And God's like, look, I don't need your money, dude. I need your heart. I need your soul. I need your mind. I need you. And then, yes, of course, once you get that right, I can give you resources, and I'll give you resources to give and provide and preside and protect your family. And then I always believe that when you've got your situation set, like the airplane, they always say put the mask on yourself first and
You're
then
using
save your
mine, dude.
neighbor.
I use this all
Right,
the
right.
time.
That's such a
Go
good
for
one.
it. Say it.
Do yourself a favor financially. Get yourself right. God wants you to get yourself right first, and then you can save the neighbor, save the next the next person. To me, that's how it works. When you got to put the mask on yourself first, and then save the passenger next to you. So we're all passengers walking the road. If I'm honest, I'm walking in the way. I'm just another follower trying to do my best. There's a great song out there that says, I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody
Yes.
about somebody who saved
Yes.
my soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a great
We all
country
we all do
song.
it in different ways. I
Yeah.
love that
Yeah.
song. So
Um, well, I love it, Paris. This has been. I could probably chat with you for another hour. I didn't even get through my entire script here, but my notes here. So a couple things here. How give all of your credentials? How can they get a hold of you? If you have any freebies or promos or anything that you want to do, go. This is your platform. Do it.
awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I actually have a free ebook, and you go to pariscluff.com/free book, and you'll get my free ebook. It's the ebook that when I used to work as a financial advisor, people would say, Paris, I have no money. And I would say, I got to figure out a way to help people find money. And I've been able to, on average, find $300 a month for most people. And I've helped people find $700, $800, $900 a month. I mean, I'm talking about people that are not in wealthy, affluent situations. I mean, I've been able to help people. Of course, people who are wealthy and affluent are often, it's a little easier to find money, but even people who are struggling and just really don't know what to do, they can really get some good information out of that ebook. I do have a YouTube channel, so you can look me up at Paris Cluff. financial coach. I have a YouTube channel there, so I'd love to have anybody that's interested in learning for free. I am developing a community on School, SKOOL. That community is called Build a Massive Bank Account. So if you're interested in joining that community, it's free right now because I'm trying to build it. But eventually there will be an investment there. So that's where I'm at. If you search Paris Cluff on Google, you'll find almost anything and everything. I'm pretty much open book. So
I appreciate it, Paris. It was an absolute pleasure, brother, talking to you. What I'll do is give me a quick shout after I give you my mobile. Give me a quick shout after we end this, so I can kind of give you some on where we're going to go and this will drop and all that stuff. How's that sound?
sounds good.
All right. As always, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. And always, come on, Paris, get them up. Stay flexed. Yes. All right, buddy. Take care.
Take care.